Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Dragon Age Origins, and welcome to Set 7. Today we're actually going to take a breather from the main quests of the game and actually tackle some of the minor side quests. While they may not be as important, I believe that they're still fundamental to this story, at the very least because of the experience that you get out of them, but also because it gives you a sense of the sprawling chaos that's going on in the midst of this blight. So, last we left off, we'd had a conversation with Astaire, I believe. Oh, is it really time for another chat with the companions? Perhaps it is. Let's see.
Have you heard much about the Grey Wardens of old?
Ah, yes. Oh god, I love this conversation. Okay. I know they soared through the skies on griffins.
Griffins. Alas, that seems to be the only thing people remember from the tales. The mighty flying mounts that bore the Grey Wardens into battle.
Well, I wish I had a griffin.
Unfortunately, they've all passed back into the Maker's hand. So that wish will have to go unfulfilled. It was said that watching the Wardens ride in on their white griffins was enough to rouse a weary heart and put the dance back in the step of an old man. The Grey Wardens were powerful, feared and respected, but they also inspired the common people. I remember a tale that was told to me many years ago.
Does the story have griffins in it?
Maker's mercy, it's like talking to a child.
So, does it have griffins in it or not?
Yes, there are griffins in this story. The blight had ravaged the land for months, and the armies of the great kings had amassed for one last stand. As the sun burst through the clouds that boiled and churned in the dark sky above, it illuminated a vast, seething horde of darkspawn, with the archdemon at its head. And it was then, when courage seemed to fail, and all lost to death and despair, that the Grey Wardens came. They arrived with the beating of wings like mighty war drums, and stood before the armies of men.
See, I think she makes a better storyteller than Liliana, although, you know, I have yet to show that off just yet. Anyway, griffins?
Yes, griffins. Now listen to the rest of the story. The Grey Wardens, grim and fearless, marched forth, ever between the men and the encroaching darkspawn. They formed a shield of their own bodies and held that line until the archdemon was dead, and the last darkspawn lay trampled in the dirt. And then, demanding neither reward nor recognition for their sacrifice, the Grey Wardens departed. When the clouds finally rolled back, and the sun shone full upon the blighted ground, the great kings knew that they had lost no men, and none of their blood had been spilled.
This story isn't about a specific battle, is it?
You are observant. This is a tale about no battle the Grey Wardens have fought, and yet about them all. They have always defended us from the darkspawn, taking losses so we do not have to. People may have forgotten over the centuries, but nothing has changed. This knowledge has been blessing and burden to Grey Wardens past, and now it shall be your blessing and your burden.
She still approves, despite Charlotte's obvious obsession with griffins. I really wish there were griffins. Anyway, do you have anything else to say?
What's on your mind?
As a Grey Warden, I'll never lead a normal life, will I?
No, you won't.
Wow, you're blunt. And that makes me sad.
You wonder sometimes, don't you? If your life would be better if you weren't who you are.
A little.
When I was a young woman in the tower, I came to the realization that the circle would be my life, and I would know no other. Family, love, a simple life. These were things that others took for granted, that I would never have.
And this upset you?
It made me very moody. All I could think of was being trapped in that tower with no way out and no end in sight. I started hating my life and myself, and one night I found myself in the tower's chapel. I was seeking refuge, maybe answers.
Did you find anything?
I must have looked tearful or made some noise, because the revered mother came out and decided to speak to me. And because I had no one else to talk to, I talked to her. I must have said many silly things, but she told me
I
that
can
the
imagine
Maker
that.
puts us all on our paths for a reason, and fighting our intended course is what causes so much anguish.
I think she's right.
I thought the old biddy was full of rubbish. I was 15, maybe 16, and I knew everything. So I left. But
Teenagers.
I always found my way back to that chapel. And as the years passed, I began to see the truth of her words. We were supposed to be polar opposites, mage and priest. But we weren't. There was much about us that was the same.
I suppose priests have to give up a lot, too.
The revered mother had lived in the chantry all her life, as I had been in the tower for all of mine. She taught me that you can find your family in the people around you, that you can love your work and find fulfillment in duty. And there is joy even in self-sacrifice. If you put others before yourself, then their well-being is yours, and their happiness is your happiness.
It won't be easy to live that way.
You can scream and cry and be angry about life as a Grey Warden, or you can accept it and allow yourself to see the good in it. This is your choice.
And she approves. +1. Wynne certainly has a lot to say, and some people have taken that personally.
What's on your mind?
Do you have anything else? I'd like to ask you something about the circle.
I will answer to the best of my ability.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, I have nothing to ask you, apparently. But thank you for that lovely little conversation. Sten! Okay, you do have boots. For a second, I thought I forgot to put boots on you, dude.
You called.
I have a question.
I am hardly surprised.
Do you find Ferelden very strange?
To put it lightly, no one has a place here. Your farmers wish to be merchants. The merchants dream of being nobles, and the nobles become warriors. No one is content to be who they are.
Actually, never mind.
Very well.
I wanted to discuss something you mentioned.
Speak, then.
That's enough for now.
Then I suggest we move on.
I agree. I think you should leave. No. Let's go.
As you wish.
Okay, so we don't really have much to ask him about things we have overheard because we haven't had him in the party. And interestingly, it's a unique dynamic with Sten that you can overhear things in banter and ask him about it later. None of the other companions actually have that as an option. So, yeah, I would have liked to see more of that, actually. Let's have a chat with Morrigan.
I await your command.
I'd like to ask you something.
So, full of questions, are you?
Never mind, I don't like the way you're looking at me. Never mind. And then actually, I think I forgot to... I need to empty out my inventory. So, we'll be right back after I do that. Alright, and we're back. And of course I happen to say that just as the cow moves. Thanks, that's really nice. Oh, but we do have a new party member to speak with who decided to flatten himself on the ground. How's it going, Zevran, buddy?
Here I am.
Care to answer some questions?
Oh, this should be good. Go ahead.
What does it take to become an assassin?
Well, The crows would have you believe that it is an involved process that takes years of training. The sort that tests both your resolve and your endurance. Survive that process and maybe, just maybe, you're good enough to start being considered one of them. But quite frankly, the truth is that all it requires is the desire to kill people for a living. It's surprising how well one can do in such a field.
Shut up, dog. It doesn't take any special skill?
I don't know about that. It's simply a slightly different skill set from your average killer as I see it. An assassin simply specializes in striking from stealth, and in maximizing that first attack to be as lethal as possible. Debilitate your foe, either by poison or by crippling their limbs, makes any follow-up combat you need to engage in that much simpler.
That sounds like it could be useful.
See? Getting paid for the act is beside the point. An assassin is more a tactical choice than a lifestyle. Of course, the crows like to pretend that their abilities are trade secrets, shrouded in shadows and wrapped in a blanket of mystery. So let's just keep this between you and me, shall we?
Sounds like a good plan. What else have you to say?
Here I am.
Care to answer some questions?
Oh, this should be good. Go ahead.
Why did you want to leave the crows exactly?
Well now, I imagine that's a very fair question. Being an assassin after all is a living, at least as far as such things go. I was simply never given the opportunity to choose another way. So if that choice presents itself, why should I not seize upon it?
You didn't choose to join the crows?
To be truthful, I didn't even know the crows existed when I joined them. I was but a boy of 7 when I was purchased, for 3 sovereigns, I'm told, which is a good price, considering I was all ribs and bone and didn't know the pommel of a dagger from the pointy end. The crows buy all their assassins that way, buy them young, raise them to know nothing else but murder, and if you do poorly in your training, you die.
That sounds awful.
Oh, I don't know about that. The crows who are actually good enough to survive come to enjoy some of the benefits. In Antiva, being a crow gets you respect. It gets you wealth. It gets you women. And men. Or whatever it is you might fancy. But that does not mean doing what is expected of you always. And it means being expendable. It's a cage, if a gilded cage. Pretty, but confined.
So, what is it you fancy exactly?
I fancy many things. I fancy things that are beautiful, and things that are strong. I fancy things that are dangerous and exciting. Would you be offended if I said I fancied you?
Not at all.
This is good to know. As for what I'll do in the future, presuming that there is one, I truly can't imagine. It might be interesting to go into business for myself, for a change. Far away from Antiva, of course. For now, naturally, I go where you go.
I'm happy to have you along.
And here I am, happy to be had. Isn't it wonderful how things work out that way? Come now, enough chit-chat. Talking about the crows summons them, you know. Any Antivan fishwife could tell you so.
He approves plus 10. Do you have anything else to say, sir? Can you teach others to be an assassin?
Oh, I certainly could, but I won't. I swore to the crows that the things they taught me were to remain a secret. And while, yes, they are already angry at me, I'd rather not push things, you see.
Very well. I'll respect your word.
If you are truly insistent, well, let me think about it. The crows are already angry at me, yes? Who knows?
And he approves plus 2. And what else can I pester you with, Zevran? Care to answer some questions?
All right, but I get to stare at you luridly while you do so.
Yeah. Do you actually enjoy being an assassin?
And why not? There are many things to enjoy about being a crow in Antiva. You are respected, you are feared, the authorities go out of their way to overlook your trespasses, even the rewards are nothing to turn your nose up at. As for the killing part, well, some people simply need assassinating. Or do you disagree?
No, you're probably right.
I often find myself the instrument of fate, ending these lives for one necessity or another. I console myself in the notion that most of them had it coming. As far as enjoying the act of killing itself, why not? There is a certain artistry to the deed, the pleasure of sinking your blade into their flesh and knowing that their life is in your hands.
I know what you mean.
There are many things I did not enjoy about being a crow, of course. Having no choice, being treated as an expendable commodity, the rules, oh, so many rules. But simply being an assassin, I like it just fine. I will continue to do it if I can, even if I am not a crow. Honestly, could you picture me doing something else?
Handsome elf like you? I can think of a few things.
I mean professionally. Or maybe you mean professionally as well. Perhaps you intend to peddle my services to bored Ferelden noblewomen. It is an interesting thought, but I've always removed my clothes strictly on an amateur basis. A talented amateur, of course, but an amateur nonetheless. Of course, all these thoughts are moot. Chances are still good that you and I will perish, eaten by darkspawn or slain by the crows at some point. Very gruesomely, I imagine. But it is pleasant enough to chat about. Come, let's move on while our boots still have some wear in them.
You know, at least some of my companions seem to dismiss us with, "Come on, let's go," before blah blah. At least Morgan and Zevran seems to have to blah 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 blah. Care to answer some questions?
All right, but I get to stare at you luridly while you do so.
Yeah. So, tell me about your adventures.
My adventures? I'm hardly an old man just returned from across the ocean, am I? Should I shake my fist at nearby children while I talk about the good old days?
You certainly talk like you've had adventures.
Falling down a flight of stairs is an adventure. Falling into someone's bed, also an adventure. I am assuming what you're looking for are professional anecdotes. Let's see, my second mission ever for the Crows was a bit intriguing. I was sent to kill a mage who had been meddling in politics.
Meddling in politics, how?
How should I know? I got the impression it involved sex, but then I get that impression about most everything. Odd, really. As it turned out, the mage in question was quite a delightful young woman. Long, divine legs, as I recall. I caught her in a carriage on her way to escape to the provinces. After I killed her guard, she got down on her hands and knees and begged for her life. Rather aptly, I might add. So I joined her in the carriage for the night and left the next morning.
And she didn't try to kill you?
Well, yes, twice, actually. Then she decided to try and use me instead. The woman had actually convinced me to speak to the Crows on her behalf. What can I say? I was young and foolish at the time. Then, as I was kissing her goodbye to return to Antiva City, she slipped on the threshold and fell backwards out of the carriage. Broke her neck. Shame, really, but at least it happened quickly.
That's terrible.
Then I found out that she had told the driver to take her to Janellen instead. She had planned to lose me in the provinces. I would have looked very foolish to the Crows. As it was, my master was very impressed that I had done such a fine job of making it look like an accident. The circle of Magi was unaware of foul play, and everyone was happier all around.
So you seem to be touched by quite a bit of fortune. Or... these sorts of things happen to you often?
Like being spared by a benevolent mark who then helps me escape from the Crows? Yes, it does seem to happen now and again, doesn't it? It was after that when I learned that one needn't let a pretty face go to your head. Professionalism was key. That's my moral of the day, you see.
So you never mix business with pleasure?
Well, there is you. But I'll point out that you did have to capture me and tie me up first. Every rule has its exception. Now that I've mentioned tying me up in that context, do we have extra rope about?
So, wait, I'm still used to the Dragon Age 2 setup. In one session, we've gotten his approval up to 20. Notice how it doesn't mention his particular status, whether it's friendly or warm or anything like that. For some reason, they don't actually identify, once you start flirting with him, they don't identify that there's an interested until, I think, at least 5 more points. Anyway, I think we're done with Zevon for now. And we're just about out of time for this installment of Let's Play Dragon Age Origins. Hope to see you next time, where I have one more conversation, or maybe 2, with Alistair. Hope to see you then, folks.